All right. Now we are into New York City. We are hanging out with a guy named Bryan, also formerly of Xibalba, but he is the other Bryan from Xibalba. That's where I met him. But now he's long past the Xibalba days. He's doing bands like Born Sinner, Supernatural Psycho. He's got an awesome grill. He's got like 150 pairs of shoes behind him. He's looking pretty fly. So first off, Bryan, how's isolation doing in New York City?
It's all right. Have you ever been in New York,
I was
Kevin?
I was in New York City when I was a little kid because I grew up sort of in New Jersey until I was 6 years old. So I have very early
Oh, wow.
memories. But yeah, how's things going for you?
I mean, to be honest, with all the fucked up shit, I like being by myself a lot.
Hmm.
So I don't mind being in my room and like just like focusing on like whatever I have to do. Like, I don't know. I just like picked up, I'm like caught up on so much sleep. I listen to a bunch of records. I play bass.
Yeah,
I like work out. I like recently got into meditating like the past like year. So I've been doing that when I wake up. Like, it's cool with me,
yeah.
but I know like yesterday was a little bit a breaking point where I was like, fuck, I wanted to go outside, but I was like, let me just stay in. So it has its moments where it is kind of shitty, but now it's time. I tell my friends to like just catch up on themselves, like work on themselves. So whenever we get out of this situation, they're just a little bit better.
That's a good way of looking at it, man, and just have some time to self-reflect, maybe read some of those graphic novels you had like piling up, listen to some of those records you always bought and you didn't have time to listen to. Maybe play
Hmm.
some guitar or something. Um
It's time to get good at whatever skill or whatever you wanted to get better at,
Absolutely. That I'm
Literally just
that's I've been just I started this YouTube thing and I'm not trying to be the next freaking no jumper over here or something. I'm not trying to create like some huge empire. I'm literally just doing it to kind of this is what I do and I wanted to talk to my friends and might as well record it because we could talk about some interesting things and people need content to kind of get them away from the negativity of everything. How have you been? I mean, what have you been kind of diving into? I know we all have enough time to maybe deep dive some TV shows. I've been watching a lot of Ozark. You've been watching any movies? You said you were watching WrestleMania 24 today.
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of Office actually.
Okay,
Like this
cool.
was actually before quarantine. Like I go through phases where I'll just put the Office on.
Hmm.
So I've been watching a lot of the Office. I've watched every Batman movie from Tim Burton to the Joel Schumacher ones
Oh
to
yeah.
the Christian Nolan ones. And then
Hmm.
I even bought Batman and Superman the
Ooh.
other day on my Amazon Prime. And I was like, I like shitty stuff, so I was able to watch it and
Yeah, it
like
wasn't that bad.
I'm not like a crazy movie critic, so I'm like, oh, this is fine. Like it's chill.
It's
It's
not. It's not the best, but I liked it better than Suicide Squad.
yeah. Oh yeah. I only thing I liked about Suicide Squad was Harley Quinn. She
Okay.
was great. But like I always find like the I don't know, the good and even shitty shit. Like I was watching Grease 2 yesterday and I love Grease 2.
Yeah.
So I've just been watching the randomest shit,
Speak,
honestly. And a
speaking of
lot of all Japan.
Nice. All Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll get to some wrestling here in just a few. But speaking of shitty shit, the other night I had a shitty shit movie marathon. Me and my girl watched. First off, we watched The Fanatic, which was written and directed by Fred Durst.
Oh
It's
wow.
available.
I heard that's decent.
It's weird. It's weird. Definitely check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. And then we watched the Danzig movie called Verotica,
Uh-huh.
and that is it's like Skinamax versions of Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's terrible. But yeah, I never thought I'd say this, but Fred Durst made a better movie than Glenn Danzig. I don't know. It's weird.
Wow. I saw Mexi Mike, Nate from Xibalba was like, this was on Twitter. He's like, someone recommend me something to watch. And Mexi Mike actually told Nate to watch that. He's like, it's actually pretty decent. And I read that and I was like, man, maybe I should check this out.
Yeah, check it out, dude. Check it out. So I gotta ask, man, how many pairs of shoes do you think you have behind you?
Shit. I don't know. I actually got rid of a lot.
Really?
Probably, probably like 100 and no more than 120. I don't think.
Okay,
I think
still a
that's
lot of
like,
shoes, but how many do you
yeah.
think you had before you got rid of some?
Before, uh, wow. Plus what I had in California, uh, maybe like two something,
Okay,
which is
dude.
kind of crazy to even think about having that many shoes. Cause I mean, I like shoes, but I mean, they're just shoes too. You know what I mean?
Dude, I have no room to I have no room to like judge you. You probably see my t-shirt collection, and that's
Yeah. Oh
wrestling
yeah.
and bands, and so I got no room to judge, and I got all kinds of toys and a bunch of stuff behind me, and music. So, dude, we all collect. We're just nerds about different stuff. You just happen to be about shoes, but the shoe kind of obsession with you has become a livelihood for you. You now are working at a really rad sneaker store, kind of streetwear kind of place, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the funny thing with that is the reason why I got that job is because Nick Woj from Cold World designs all the merch for the store that I work at, Concepts.
That's
So it's
amazing.
kind of like hardcore. Like when you're involved in it, it's still like out. How could I say this? There's so many hardcore kids out there that are like that you would never know that just
Mhm.
are just regular that work in regular jobs. Well, I've known Nick for almost 10 years and he knew that I managed this other spot, Extra Butter. So he was just like, hey, you should like come over to Concepts because we actually need like a pretty reliable manager.
He
I'm not
headhunted
saying that
you.
they had it at the
Yeah.
time, but it was just kind of cool because me and Nick were always just homies, and like then all of a sudden he brought me over, and it's honestly changed my life for the better. As far as like I owe so much, as far as like to like some of my bosses that I'm close to, and the people
Mhm.
that I've met, and just like the things that I've been able to do. Like I know it's like not the easiest place to like live in. New York is,
Yeah.
but I somehow made it work with like I just feel like with working hard and being like a decent human,
Mhm.
and not being a piece of shit. So and having good friends, like
Yeah.
shout out to Nick for like picking me up.
That's dope, man. And what do they say? Like, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So I guess you could fucking
That's
make
what
it
I
anywhere,
always
Bryan.
heard. Yeah, I hope so. Man, that's the saying I've always heard. And it's like I feel like once you make it here, you kind of like feel like this like confidence, and that's something that I always told people. As much as I love California and like Los Angeles, I feel
Mhm.
like I found myself here more because I was able to kind of just separate myself from like everything that I've known and
Yeah.
just start from like new and like by myself. And the only person I could rely on is myself, and not like anyone else. I had a lot of friends here, so it wasn't like a crazy dramatic change.
Yeah.
But as far as like being by myself and like working and like kind of like progressing and like keep going to that next level, that was my thing. Is like just keep going and keep going and keep going, and like I still like that's what I strive for. Is like what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
And what's the next thing?
Hell yeah, man. And you're even finding the positivities in isolation. You're trying to do the next thing as far as like learn some things and stuff. So that's awesome. That's something I respect about you, Bryan.
Oh, thank you. That's what I told my friend. I was like, yo, this is all mental, man. Like this is all mental right now. It sucks that we got to stay in and all this crazy shit, but it's really, you got to take care of yourself and just like try not to go a little crazy. Because even me, like I said yesterday, I was going a little nuts. I was like, oh man, I was like, I'm sick of being in my fucking room.
Yeah. Are you guys allowed to? I mean, because we're allowed to go on walks here, but we just have to keep kind of a distance. Is your governor allow you to go outside and take walks and stuff, or is it best
From
not to?
what I heard, it was like a lockdown. So, but I see people walking anyway. I mean, there was like a video, and I don't want to like say, use the internet as like my source of news because I try not to.
Sure.
But I saw like this video in Queens. It was like a park, and all these people were still just out there, and I was just like, what the fuck, like.
You see the heat
I don't
map
know.
of COVID just like emanating from them, just like.
Yeah. Oh my. It's funny because a lot of people just hit me up. They're like, "Hey, are you okay? How are you out there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been in my fucking room for the last week. I think I'm fine."
Your isolation chamber. So yeah, man. So tell me a little bit about your store. You've actually had some pretty cool interactions with some like hip hop artists that I would even know. I'm not like a huge hip hop head, but you post some stuff on your Instagram and stuff. Who are some of the coolest people that you've had the chance to meet through concepts?
Um, let's see. Jadakiss was really cool. I'm
Yeah,
a big fan of Jada. Recently was Chief Keef. Chief Keef was like, I always heard he was very interesting, but he was mad fucking cool to me.
that's
And I'm
awesome.
a big Chief Keef fan, so I
Yeah.
like walked into the store and I was like, the one of my coworkers, or he's kind of like a third party. He's like, "Hey, I'm with Chief Keef. Can I bring him to the store?" And I was like, "Yeah, like by all means." I never get like I never nerd out or I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
get
yeah.
like starstruck. I actually love Chief Keef, so I was like, "Nah, we'll see if Chief Keef comes." So I remember walking up to the store because I had to go drop something off, and I just saw like a group of people, and then I walk into the store and they're all looking at me, but I think they could tell that I was like a higher up, so they kind of just like opened up space for me, and I'm like walking through, and I like get to the second part of my store,
Yeah.
and I look over, and I'm like, holy shit, Chief Keef is right there.
Yeah.
I like couldn't believe it. I was like, damn, this is so crazy. And I texted like my friend because funny enough, the day before I moved to New York officially, we were driving around LA like smoking weed and just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of saying bye to all my friends and stuff. And we were bumping Chief Keef so much. I remember that trip. So I texted him right away. I was like, dude, you would not believe who's in my store right now. But Chief was one of them.
Well, that
Shit, I'm
speaking of the day that you posted the picture of Chief Keef, it was interesting because on the day that you posted Chief Keef, a highly influential NYC rapper who was kind of influenced by Chief Keef, Pop Smoke, was killed the same day that you posted that photo.
oh yeah. That was
So
actually my bad.
no, no. So were you a fan of Pop Smoke and kind of
Mhm.
that Brooklyn drill kind of movement?
So the thing with the Pop Smoke thing is, I remember a lot of my friends like outside of like New York, they're like, hey, what's the thing? Like, who's popping off in New York?
Yeah,
That's gonna be popping off. And I would always say Pop Smoke. And like I wasn't the craziest Pop Smoke fan, but I fucked with Pop Smoke.
yeah,
But my friend Chris was like the hugest Pop Smoke fan.
sure.
So I remember walking down, I got off the train and I was walking to work and someone texted me like the link and I was like, there's no way that this
Right.
is happening because we had the Kobe thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's just a lot of stuff that's been happening the past couple months. So I was just like, not this again, you know?
Yeah,
And as
yeah.
soon as I got to the store, my friend Chris, who I work with, was like, Pop Smoke died. I was like, I know. I was like, I was just gonna like,
Mm.
text you about this. And it's just like, it's sad because I always felt like he was like on that verge. He was like about to blow up. Like
Yeah.
you felt he was like right below the mainstream or like
Mm-hmm.
another like hit or two. Not that he needed it, you know what I mean? But I just felt like he was on that level to
Oh, he
get
was a
to that
rising
point.
star for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's sad, man.
That
But
was really sad.
R.I.P. Pop Smoke. And
Yeah.
yeah, so you and I, we first met because you were on tour with a band. I think they were called Unrestrained or I'm not
Restrained, yeah.
Restrained. Yeah, Restrained. And we just got into we were
Unrestrained from your area, right?
yeah, that's right. So Restrained, rather. So you were on tour with them, and we just nerded out about wrestling. So that's one thing we've
Yeah.
always had in common. And we actually met up in New Orleans for WrestleMania. What are your thoughts
Yep.
on WrestleMania next weekend in an empty arena? What are you going to be watching? For me, honestly, it's kind of hard to watch. It's it's like cool for a few minutes, and then after the novelty wears off, you're like,
You're right. Yeah.
it's awkward. What do you think, man?
Um,
What's your opinion on it?
I honestly haven't. I've been a shitty wrestling fan, so I haven't been like keeping up on too much. Like I'll read stuff,
Yeah.
but it was basically because of that what you just said. Like the fans bring a lot to it. So it's like the novelty is like interesting. It's like you see like this empty arena and then you see like this match. And then within like the first 5 minutes, you're kind of like, God, what the fuck, you know? So obviously I'll watch it. I hope it's good. Are they going to have people on there? Are they going to have people there?
No, it's like empty. I mean, they have people, but like you heard that Roman Reigns, he dropped out of his match, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all up in the air, man. They already filmed it. So, you know, it was all last week. They filmed it.
Last week, right?
Yeah, they filmed it like a movie because they're Orange County in Florida, where the Performance Center is now on like 100% lockdown for non-essential businesses. So they got in right by the time limit. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch.
So interesting.
Can you imagine a John Cena match where he's just like yelling his spots with like no fans?
Well, that's another thing too that I like was kind of like curious on is like even when I watch it, like I was watching. I mean, I see it all the time, but I was watching a match earlier. I think it was like Spring Stampede '99. I was watching some random shit.
I was there. DDP won the belt. DDP won the belt.
And
in Tacoma.
He like set a spot. It was like him and Sting were outside, and I could literally hear it. And I wasn't even like paying attention to the match, but like I heard it. So I'm like, how are they gonna do it in an empty arena? Do they lower the mic?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously they're practicing it, so they might take it out the audio, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be interesting. Are you gonna watch it?
Yeah. I don't. It's not like a priority for me, but like my two radio shows, Metal Shop and Loud and Local, were kind of on like quarantine lockdown. So I'm going to be going back to the radio stations basically when all this ends. So I do have a lot of extra time. My day job is on hiatus right now too. So to say that I don't have the time would be an absolute lie. I think we all have the time. It's just whether or not I get bored and I don't know. But anyways, so let's talk a little bit about because music's a big part of your life, whether it be hip hop, hardcore metal, alternative rock. I mean, you got Nirvana tattoos, you got a Sade tattoo, but then super into death metal, stuff like that. What was the first CD, first tape, physical piece of media, first actual like music that you purchased on your own, not given to you by like a cooler older brother or something that you actually used your own money on?
Okay, so there's there's 3 albums.
Okay.
But two things that or 2 separate events. I remember buying the first Bone Thugs and Harmony album for my brother for his birthday at Warehouse.
Yeah.
And with my own money. Like,
okay.
I remember buying it for him and I was like looking forward to seeing how stoked he was. I actually don't remember if he was stoked or not. I'm sure he was because
he better have been. That's a good album.
The first albums that kind of like that I remember buying, the first one for sure was Green Day Dookie.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you're bringing this up because I go through phases where I go and listen to that stuff. So lately I've been listening to like the 3 albums that really, really just changed my life was Dookie, Offspring, Smash, and Nevermind by Nirvana. Nice, so like those have been my like 3 albums that I've like been throwing on lately. Like I was literally just listening to Smash, like coming back, actually walking back from work to my house today.
Damn, dude. So yeah, those are 3 great albums. I love all 3 of those records. And dude, it's insane how many copies those albums sold. And yeah. I think that honestly, I don't think we would have gotten a Green Day and Offspring if it wasn't for the smashing like commercial success of Nirvana Nevermind. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I was watching this documentary a while ago, and Billy Joel basically said that. He's like, if it wasn't for Nirvana, all these like underground acts, like I think he even meant like just in general underground music, but he definitely meant like underground like punk or hardcore would never have gotten like an opportunity to like mainstream like how they are. And it's kind of crazy that a band from like Aberdeen, Washington that like didn't want to be like mainstream whatsoever ends up changing like the landscape of music. And like sometimes I like would just think about stuff like that, like how much of an impact. Because you know me, like Nirvana's, I'm wearing like a Crippled Mean shirt right now that my boy James K did. But they really just changed like the whole dynamic of how music was. Yeah. And it's like, you could still feel the impact a little bit now. Maybe not so much because I feel like it's such a norm now. But without them doing that, I don't think things would be how they are.
I would agree. And it's also funny, like, how there was just so much like there was so much emphasis on like technical proficiency and like all this stuff with like, you know, Van Halen and all these kind of like guitar solos, and then Nirvana comes out and they're the most basic kind of just raw punk rock, like power chords, and they just totally changed the face of everything. So dude, they certainly changed the game. They were game changers. For you correct me if I'm wrong, you got into like more hardcore punk music before you did like metal, right?
Yeah, so it started off basically with like, I think the first kind of music that I was exposed to as far as like what was like Green Day, Smash, and Nirvana. But what I really got into, which is why I hold Seattle like such a close spot, that was actually a place I was going to move to. It was either New York, San Fran, or Seattle.
Okay.
Once I was going to leave like
all
SoCal.
very expensive.
Oh, I heard it's getting more expensive too. All three places actually.
Exactly.
But that Seattle scene was like my first, like when I started realizing music was just more than music. It was like a lifestyle. Was that whole sub pop, like, you know, Nirvana, Melvins, you know, Mudhoney, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Like that was like the thing that kind of like sparked it. And then I started getting into, I met Bryan, and then I started getting into like more like punk, hardcore. And then from there, it kind of went into like metal, thrash metal, death metal, doom metal, you know. And now we just listen to like, I feel like I listen to everything all the time. Like it doesn't even like matter the type of music, but I think that was like, as far as like the more aggressive side, that's how it went.
Nice. Dude, I gotta ask you some funny questions here. So you getting into hardcore in the early 2000s, late 90s. I know you must have done like the pit ninja stuff, the hardcore dancing. Did you ever practice in your mirror? Be honest.
Oh yeah. How do you not practice at home?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what? It wasn't more so practicing. It was more so, as cheesy as it sounds, like just hearing like the music. If I'm correct, Throwdown Beyond Repair came out. What is it? 20 something years ago on Indecision. My friend posted it, Gabe. Okay. And like that's like shit that I would play in my room, and it's like that shit is so aggressive. Like how you not walk to the kitchen wanting to like pit? You know what I mean? Like I pitted down my niece a couple times on the way, you know, to go grab some food. She was just a casualty.
Okay, so you were you were pitting, you were listening to Throwdown, and you were a fan of wrestling. Bryan, in the pit, what was your finishing move?
If I had to say my finishing move, honestly, it would be stage diving.
Okay, nice.
I think it's because I'm so light, and like there was a point where it's just all I was doing. There's this place, like obviously I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like a legendary place in Corona, California, called Showcase. Yeah, and I used to have. Did you ever go?
No, I never went, but I saw videos of like Strife and stuff like that.
So you would walk in, and then if you go up these stairs, there's where all the bands had the merch. I would walk up there during like a show, during like a set, walk up there, go to the end of it, hop on top of the big speaker and do like front flips off of that big speaker onto the crowd, or just like stage dive. Like I used to do that head walking was like my favorite thing. I wish people did it more. I don't see people head walk anymore.
See, thing is I think I weigh more than you. I think I'm like a cutoff point. You can head walk. I don't think it's okay for me to head walk, but you're a little bit smaller than I am. I think it's okay for you to head walk, not so much for me. Or like Big Bryan head walking. I don't think so, man.
Well, I think that was the thing too, was the stage dive is because I was so light. I was like, I think that was like my go-to, you know?
Absolutely, man. Dude, I used to do this thing that's actually super cringy now, but you know what? No shame, no guilt here, no guilty pleasure here. We used to put on like Throwdown and Hatebreed, and we would stop our car at stoplights, and we would get out and do and mosh at the stoplight,
Oh, nice.
and we would do like the it's fire drill. But we would get out of the car and we would all mosh outside of the car with like Shattered Realm or Throwdown blasting.
Oh man, Shattered Realm, that's some ass beating shit. It's funny because every now and then I go back to certain stuff like that. I'm like, I still like this. This is so good.
Absolutely. So when did wrestling come into your life? We hear about hardcore and punk and music and stuff, but you're also a huge wrestling head, and you're not just like a casual like, oh, I watch Raw. You're like a big time wrestling head. Your old Instagram name was Muda Scale, which is a deep cut.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Great Muta, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the bloody. We're talking about the nasty cuts on your head. When did you first get into wrestling, and when did it become like this all-encompassing like obsession of yours?
Wrestling is the one thing in my life that's always been consistent. Actually, like as far as like I could remember like that, like my early memories is just wrestling, and it's my brother. My brother and my cousins used to watch it, and it's funny because I posted the little screenshot. I don't know if you noticed on my IG story. It was a Steamboat and Savage. Yesterday was the anniversary for WrestleMania 3. Mm-hmm. So I posted that, and my brother like commented. He's like, I remember us ordering this at the house. And by that time, I was born February 11th, 1987. That was like March 29th, 1987. So I was like a month.
You were a baby.
You know? I was a baby, but my brother was like, yeah, I remember we ordered that. So I think it was like something kind of just passed on. And I kind of just took it to like a different level. And it was just always something that like stayed with me. And like, I just always appreciated it. And I think, I'm sure just like you, once it really started like hitting more was at middle school, like 1998, 1999, like ECW's like popping off. Like those are like really good ECW years. Like WCW is doing really good. Like WWE, WWF is like all like off the hook. So like that was like full blown, like I'm in it. Like it's like the Attitude Era, like hype. And then sometimes I feel like with certain people, they kind of fell off after that, like after the Attitude Era.
Oh,
but
yeah.
With me, sure. I like, instead of like kind of watching WWE a little bit more, like I would keep up with things. I would always watch WrestleMania. My friend, his name's Eric, he was putting me onto Ring of Honor. So that was like early Ring of Honor. Yeah. So I remember going to his house and he had it was the ROH, the Unified. So it was Nigel McGuinness versus Daniel Bryan.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, yo, he told me, he was like, this guy right here, he was talking about Daniel Bryan. Mm-hmm. He's like, this guy's going to be the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
And he was just like, here's all his DVDs, all the stuff that's came out.
Yeah.
Like, just go watch it. And from that moment on, like he actually became my favorite wrestler, which is funny to think. I think about like how everything correlates. My favorite wrestler is Bryan Danielson. Mm-hmm. My favorite band's Nirvana, and they're both from Aberdeen, Washington.
Yeah, man.
Which is fucking crazy.
Next time you come to Washington, we got to make a little trip to Aberdeen.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Is there anything exciting about it? I'm just curious.
On the sign, when it says "Welcome to Aberdeen," it does say "Come as you are," which you definitely need to take a picture by. And believe it or not, there's an unlicensed Star Wars store there. So it's just an old guy who has a really sick, like, antique Star Wars store. It's all Star Wars. It's just so random. It's like a small town with an all Star Wars store.
Like toys, like
everything.
Everything?
Everything Star Wars. It's a Star Wars store. It's very strange, but very cool.
Not to be too nerdy, but do you watch that? I've been watching this a lot because I have time. That Zack Ryder.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hawking.
Figure it out.
Yo, I've been watching it the past like maybe 3 or 4 days. Like I'm very brand new, but like I'm watching it and it like you get the crazy nostalgia for all these toys. Like I cannot, and they have so much stuff.
Dude, they have so much money to spend on that stuff. Zack Ryder,
Yeah.
he drops like, and his fiance Chelsea Green, and just like her face every time he just gets packages sent. And dude, he's listening to their podcast too, because they also have like a freaking weekly podcast where it's called Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. And dude, he's like, here's my weekly haul, and he just runs down everything he purchases on that show. Dude, sometimes he spend like a couple grand, and it's just on wrestling toys. It's nuts, dude. What was the first wrestling toy you ever got?
I have 2 stories I can tell you. So the first thing I remember was I remember Christmas. I got that Hasbro ring, and it came with the Randy Savage and the Hulk Hogan one, and it came with the belt. So that's like the first toy I remember getting. And then I remember, here's a side story involving wrestling toys.
Yeah.
I went to go pick up my sister with my mom at, I think it was Del Amo Mall back in California. And my mom had bought me, so when Beetlejuice came out. So she bought me this Beetlejuice toy and used to be able to take off the head, and it was that small head.
Oh, yeah.
So she bought me that. So when we went to go pick up my sister at night, I went into KB Toys, and in the front, like, granted, this is like early 90s, so you could imagine all the WWF Hasbro toys.
Yeah.
I grabbed the Ultimate Warrior one, and I grab it, and I go show my mom, and she's outside of the store. And I'm like, could I get this? And she's like, no. So I just sat down, and I just looked at it the whole time waiting for my sister. Then she was like, all right, Brian, we have to go. So we go. Next thing you know, I have the toy in my hand, and she's like, where'd you get that? And I was like, well, and then my sister was like, well, he already has it now, so let's just go, you know?
You just never let go of it.
Story, like, it's so crazy. I like randomly will think about that and be like, damn, nice.
Yeah, you got that one, dude. You grifted an Ultimate Warrior figure. That's awesome. Dude, so as far as that goes, you are someone who went to a lot of PWG shows, right? So PWG obviously is a lot different than when you first started going to it, but being into like early ROH and stuff, when was the first time you went to PWG?
Whew. Damn. I can't even think of the first show.
You must have seen some people that are like way up there now.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm trying to think of the first one. It was my friend Tony and Andres. They were the ones. They were like my wrestling homies that would tell me about PWG. They're like, yo, you should come with us. Then once I started going, we started like, when I tell you we would go every PWG show for a good like 2 years, it was like insane. Like it was always something I would look forward to. And do you remember Matt? He played guitar in Time for Change, Big Brian's cousin.
Yeah.
He would always go with me all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All the time. I would be like, yo, Matt, you down for PWG? He's like, hell yeah.
That's
he was
awesome.
one person that would go with me all the time. But I saw some really crazy stuff. The 2 things that I can remember, I don't know how familiar you are with some of their like cards, but I was at Steenwolf, which was Kevin Steen versus El Generico in the ladder match. And I mean, whoever sees this, if you're a wrestling fan too, I'm in the front row with my friend Tony. And that match was like, holy shit, man. That's one of the greatest events I've ever been to, was at PWG. And then I went to, I think they call it the 8th anniversary show.
Okay.
The cool thing about that was Daniel Bryan just got released because remember he choked Justin Roberts.
Yeah.
So he was doing all those indie shows. Mm-hmm. So we heard he got announced for PWG. So me and my ex-girlfriend at the time bought tickets right away.
Yeah.
Went just to go see Daniel Bryan. It was a good show regardless. But one thing that I do, which I might still have, actually, hold on.
What do you got?
Oh man, I must have it at my house, but I have 2 copies. This is like my favorite Ring of Honor.
Okay. Glory by Honor.
Glory by Honor 5 Night 2. So it's the Kenta and Bryan Danielson match is like probably one of my favorite matches. But I have another version, and he signed it actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Fuck, I'm so pissed. I thought I had the signed one, but I guess I don't. Shit.
It's all good.
A lot of
I
WWE
stole
shows. Wow, yeah, you can have it. It's fine.
So, while we're on the subject of wrestling, what are a couple of your top WrestleMania matches of all time? And then after that, who are your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
How many Mania matches do you want?
Top 3.
Top 3? For sure. I mean, I'm guessing your number 1 is like my number 1, right? Would it be Austin and Brett?
I think so. That's either mine or mine. I think mine actually might be Shawn Michaels Razor ladder match 1, WrestleMania 10.
Ooh. Okay. I would say I will say Austin and Brett is my number 1. Damn, this is actually a hard ass question. Not for nothing. My number 2 would be the WrestleMania 20 Triple Threat.
Nice.
The Benoit, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Like that's like,
yeah,
man, that's a good one. And my 3rd would be, man, this is hard.
Triple H Ultimate Warrior.
Oh man, well, ooh. You know what? I'm gonna throw one that like I feel like doesn't. There's I wouldn't say it's my number 3, but put it in my 3.
Junkyard Dog.
Wait, which one is that? Is that 2?
I think it's 2 or 3. I think it's 3. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to butt in. What were you saying?
I will say Warrior and Savage at 7.
Yes.
The indie one. Dude. That's a really, really good one that I like, actually.
I know it's not like technically like a Matt Classic or something, not like 5-star Meltzer match or something, but I gotta say, dude, just for the pure hype and just like how much sentimental value it brings me, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, dude, that was the shit.
Watching it when I was younger, it was always like trippy because you're like, damn, it's like Warrior and Hogan. You're like confused a little bit, like who do you like? This is like, there's no gray area. You're either for Warrior or you're either for Hogan. And I was like a Hogan head, so obviously I was like going for Hogan. But I mean, Warrior won. I haven't seen that one in a while, actually. I should probably go watch that one again.
Dude, I was a Warrior head.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was all about Warrior, man. I had the Warrior socks, and my cousin had the Hogan socks. I was a big Warrior mark. My friend Kenny was a big Hogan mark. So we would just, do the battle it out. But that match, man, like, talk about making the most out of not much, dude. Like, just and also talk about like how much a crowd means to a match. And while we're talking about that and Hogan matches, also, I mean, The Rock and Hogan, man. Like that match, they just had them in the palm of their freaking hand, dude. Like every single move, and they turned Hogan to a babyface again in that match. It was like that was incredible, dude.
My friend, the guy that I was telling you about, Eric, he was at that Mania and he was at the 19 Mania too. Yeah. And he said at 18 live was so crazy being there because like Hogan isn't Hogan now. Like I kind of feel like Hogan now, he's kind of. People just don't even care, right?
Yeah,
like, and he's done some questionable things that no one like is
like
really
okay, boomer.
Trying to like. But like Hogan at that time, like you're still, like the nostalgia kicks in.
Yeah, he was only a couple years off of his NWO run at that point. So, dude. All right, so now that we've established your top favorite WrestleMania matches, gearing up for WrestleMania 36 live in front of no one, what are your big, let's say your Mount Rushmore of wrestling, pro wrestlers, and it could be entertainers, it could be pure, technical wrestlers, doesn't matter, just 4 wrestlers on your Mount Rushmore? Barry Horowitz, Gilbert,
Horowitz.
Brooklyn Brawl.
I would say the way I look at it, it's Austin, Rock, Flair, and Hogan. Like, just like looking at it, like as like fans, you know, like those are like the four. Like, you can't deny any of them. They did so much, and like look at Flair. Flair is even more popular now than I think he was ever before.
Dude, he's such like he's got as far as like cultural relevancy and just I mean, there's a fucking song by the Migos about him.
I was just gonna say that too. Yeah. One of the biggest groups in the fucking world has a Ric Flair drip.
Yeah, it's insane. So, hey man, that's a good big four. That's a good and speaking of big four, let's do big four for you. I asked Brian this. So big four for death metal. So we all know Slayer. Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax are the big four of thrash. What are your big four of death metal?
Huh.
I see an obituary flag behind you.
You see it?
Yeah, I see obituary. So you said Morbid Angel.
Obituary.
Okay.
Death.
Nice. Yeah, gotta.
Man, these questions are actually really hard because.
And I did not let him know beforehand. I'm putting him on the spot.
Damn. What's that last one? What do I got? Morbid Angel, Obituary, Death.
I mean,
you know what?
Cannibal Corpse.
Suffocation, dude.
Suffocation, man. Absolutely. For me personally, I think I'd have to say Cannibal Corpse because they're the band that got me into death metal. Suffocation because they're my favorite death metal band. Probably Death. And the fourth one, kind of hard.
Yeah.
Let's just say Possessed because they wrote the song Death Metal.
You know what? I think that's a good qualifier, actually. Yeah.
So, are you there? Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, my audio cut out for a second here. So we covered the death metal. We covered a lot of the stuff about where you work, and we covered a lot of that. But what got you into hip hop, man? Because you're a huge hip hop head, and I know that was something that was a huge reason why you wanted to move to New York City. What was like some of the first rap and hip hop that you got into, and what was it that kept it around and your obsession with it, that kept you in love with it?
So I think the thing that what it was is I have an older brother and sister. So my older brother, Roger, and then my sister, Christina. So growing up, before I got into any like type of rock music whatsoever, my house was just always hip hop or like R&B or like freestyle. So that's what I grew up on. So that's like the early memories of what I have. And I actually posted this flyer yesterday, and then one of my bosses, Dion, hit me up. And the thing is, I put this song, MC Breed, Ain't No Future in Your Front, which is one of like, you ever have those songs that you just remember, like you feel like those are the first songs you've ever heard in your life?
Dude, absolutely.
That was one. And Ghetto Boys, Mine is Playing Tricks on Me. Like those are like the first hip hop songs I like remember hearing really, really young. That's cool. I actually did some diving into them, and they both came out the same year in 1991, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So I always just had it around me because my brother was just heavily into the culture. Mm-hmm. And it just kept going on. Like I never stopped listening to it, even when I was listening to punk and hardcore. And it's like, as us getting older and like kind of diving more into like being in the scene, whatever, of like hardcore or like hip hop, they cross over so much, especially over here in New York. Like in the 80s, you had like KRS-One was Sick of It All.
Yeah.
And, you had like all that downtown CBs, like not only just like the hardcore, but like you had Basquiat, you had Andy Warhol. Like it was just like a cesspool of like creative. So it's funny, like getting older and you like dive into more shit with like graffiti writers too, and how everything was like kind of just mixed together at one point. But yeah, I never stopped listening to it. Like I said, even when I was like going to hardcore shows or like punk shows and whatnot. But I feel like once high school hit, I was like, I remember telling my friend Robin, I was like, I would love to live in New York because I feel like I would just like it there.
Yeah.
Just because of the whole style, like everything that I usually like, and I'm like a West Coast dude, but I always preferred Biggie over Tupac. You know what I mean? So I always preferred New York hip hop over like LA hip hop. So I always felt it was just like something that I would always end up liking. And then like moving here, like you like walk around and you like understand why the music is made how it is, just like if people from here went to LA, like they tell me all the time, they're like, we understand why Dre makes his music the way he does, because that whole environment literally like inspires and influences like how they make their music.
That's cool, man. And so did you, was there a time where like, because I know you did a lot of touring with Xibalba and I know you toured with some other bands. Was there a time where you finally was just like, fuck it, I'm doing this, I'm moving to New York City? Was there a time where you like officially like fell in love and made that choice? Bring me back to that time.
I remember at the time, with like touring and stuff, touring is a very like, people think it's like this glitz and glamour, and maybe it is now, but at the time we were just having fun. And like sometimes you slept in the van and sometimes you slept on the floor in stranger's house, or we had good friends
on
like
my floor,
you on your couch. So the thing is like when you get older, at least for me, like you always have like those moments, and like you have long drives, like 8-hour, 10-hour drives where you're just by yourself with your thoughts. And I think at the time I was just like, towards the end, I was like, I love these people. They're my brother. They're like my family. They're my brothers. I love everything that I was able to do playing in this band. I got to see the world, got to experience so much stuff. But I was like, I always know, for me personally in life, like I always know, okay, I think it's time to move on. Like I think it's time for me to focus on myself. And I think that's when it was. I needed to focus more on myself. And I actually had like a girlfriend at the time in New York. So I stayed here for like 6 months. And within like even the month, I was like, all right, like I love this place. Like it just spoke to me. And I feel like that's how it is for certain people. It either speaks to you or it doesn't. And that's fine, But I think it spoke to me. And then that 6 months, I went back to California for like 3 months. And I was just like, you know what? I feel like I need to just go venture off on myself.
Yeah.
And I just need to go do me and figure myself out. And I remember that was like a very hard thing, calling each member of the hour each and being like, hey, like, I decided to leave the band, but like, I'm just going to go pursue this and just like try to figure like my life out and whatnot. And I remember one thing that they all said was just like, hey, like we support you in whatever you do. Like we'll always be here for you. Just don't go out there and not do anything. And that's always something that always like stuck in the back of my head, was them saying that. Like, don't just go to New York and just like, not do anything. So that was always my motivation, to kind of like, that they pushed on me to like not be lazy and, try to do my best to keep pushing. And I feel like I did a pretty good job.
Absolutely, man. And you've done some creative things. We'll get to the bands that you're playing in right now in just a minute, but I wanted to kind of play off of you moving to New York City and talk about your love of hip hop. So a couple of these questions I have, and I'm not a hip hop DJ, but I do listen to like, Ebro in the morning sometimes on their podcast. And they have that whole, the debate. like your top 5 MCs or your MC list. And I'm sure you have, I'm sure you created your own, or at least you have one floating around in your head, probably, changes all the time. What are your top 5 MCs of all time? And then after that, what are your top 5 MCs right now?
Okay, so are we saying now okay, so top 5, is it my personal choice?
Your
or is
personal,
it kind of like
personal.
My personal, okay. So my favorite artist, just in general, like in all types of music, is Mos Def.
Nice.
So he would be my number 1. My number 2 would actually be Master Ace.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My number 3 would probably be, I would say Biggie is probably my number 3.
Yeah.
My number 4. I feel like my number 4 would be Ghostface.
Nice.
And then number 5, I would say, would be Prodigy from Mobb Deep.
Okay. Nice, dude.
Like,
and that's 5. Of all time.
That was 5, right?
Yep, that's of all time. So
yeah, for me, yeah.
What about current, like, relevant artists that are still like, maybe, so like more up and coming stuff? What's some stuff we should listen to? And it doesn't have to be 5. Just a few off the top of your head.
Well, definitely like the Griselda dudes. So it's like West Side Gun, Conway.
Those are big wrestleheads too.
Oh man, whew, huge wrestleheads, which is cool. Like, to me, they're the coolest rappers right now. Like, they have all the swag, they have the rhymes, they love wrestling, and it's not like some, like, how like you as a wrestling fan, like, people like wrestling and you're like, oh, I guess you just like wear the shirt or whatever.
Sure.
But these guys actually love wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's always so cool. So I would say the Griselda dudes are definitely I would put them as my number 1s. Who else would I put as my number 1? Or on that list? I like this guy El Camino. He kind of rolls with them as well. I love Lil Uzi. So
okay,
could I throw stuff like that in?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man. Like, I like a lot of weird, like, kind of hip hop pop stuff. So, dude, I ain't discriminating against any of that stuff.
To be honest, like, someone new, like, if we're in that, realm of like hip hop, is Young Thug. Young Thug is probably one of my favorite artists. I listen to Young Thug at least one Young Thug song a day.
Nice.
Like, I just got to put him on just because I feel like, he's just going to put me in the right mood.
What about Lil Xan? You a big fan?
Oh, no, not really, actually. Oh, but Freddie Gibbs.
Yes.
I got to put
Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, dude. That record was sick.
Oh, the record's great.
All right, man. Well, let's talk about the projects you got going on. So, Born Sinner, more of like a straight up New York hardcore kind of band. You're singing for that. And then Supernatural Psycho, a little bit more alternative rock, kind of 90s. Reminds me kind of like, I don't know, Dinosaur Jr. vibes or something. Tell me about the formation of both these projects and which, are you still doing both of them?
Yeah, actually, so with Supernatural Psycho, that was actually like a brainchild of Mikey, who's a singer of the band right now, and Joey C from Righteous Jams.
Oh, that's cool.
That was like their brainchild at first. And then, he was trying to figure it out. And I think that's when I just moved to New York and I became friends with Mikey. He's like, well, I need a bass player. And I was like, all right, cool. So I played bass. And then my friend Reggie, he came on and played guitar.
Nice.
And then it started moving a little bit more. And we got Vryn, who started singing. And then my friend Darren, he ended up playing drums. S&P has had like a little bit of, not too much of a revolving door of members, but members have come and gone. And once we got Darren in the band, we met through Reggie.
Yeah.
He wanted start like kind of like a more like leeway sounding like New York hardcore type band.
Sure.
And he was like, hey, I'm like writing some stuff. I would love for you. I think he asked me, or I think I volunteered. It was one or the other. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'll sing, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, let's do it. So it went from like us playing in SMP and like me and him vibing out on a lot of the same stuff to like Born Sinner, like kind of like coming up and creating. And that it's funny because with SMP, we're working on, I want to say, an album. We have enough for an album. And then with Born Sinner, we're actually in the process of going to release some stuff pretty soon on everyone. So
dope,
some new
dude.
tracks. Yeah.
Cool, man. So 2020, you think you'll have any releases coming out from either of the bands?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Nice, dude. That's
And
awesome.
people will be able to listen to it. They'll be at home.
Exactly. Well, we look forward to maybe seeing you live. We'll see. I don't know. Depending on how all of this, shakes out. So there's a lot of negativity out there, and it's easy to kind of get stuck in that feedback loop. Is something I've been thinking about. So let's just tell me a couple things that you're grateful for, Bryan. Just some things you're grateful for to have going on in your life, and things you're stoked on. Things you're grateful for.
Man, I'm grateful. Just I think as getting older, you start to appreciate more stuff like this. I think I took a lot of things for granted when I was younger, but just being able to like have a bed, like have food in the fridge, have all these fucking sneakers that I really don't need,
Yeah, totally.
3 pairs if max. So just being able to have more than one is great. Like, friends like me and you have known each other for years, and even you just hitting me up, texting me the other day that if I was able to do this, I was like, hell yeah, I would love to do that. Like, it's just small things like that, like appreciating things like that. And like I said, I don't think when I was younger, I was appreciating things. I think I was just like so caught up in the moment of things and being very reckless, how we used to kind of be. Or now I'm just like so much more calmer and just like not as wild, but I think it's just that comes with age.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this today. And is there any shout outs or thank yous you'd like to say before I let you go? And we anticipate the Born Sinner and Supernatural Psycho stuff.
No, shout out everyone that's my friend, my family's,
Yeah.
It's grateful for everything, really.
Fuck yeah, Bryan. Well, thanks for chatting with me. If nothing else, it's awesome to just talk to you, and we might as well just record it and put it up and get people to listen to us talk about, nerd out about everything from wrestling action figures to hardcore to shoes to wrestling to all that, man. It's good to talk to you, bro. And I like your gold teeth, man. Are those fronts or are those like implants? I'm assuming they're just fronts.
Oh yeah, you can take them out though.
Okay, dude, those look sick. Those are nice. That's all. I don't think I can pull that off, but I'm stoked that you can.
Yes, you can. I don't want to hear you say that you can't pull them off. Anyone can pull this off.
Nice. Maybe I'll get the fangs, like the guy from Avenged Sevenfold. All right, dude. Take it easy, man.
Take it easy, Kevin.